do you think they compared to the police officers?
Blue Canaries.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Said they're Blue Canaries.
Blue Canaries, I love it. That's awesome. We have one that hangs out with us. He's pretty cool. We like to pick on each other. All right. So, but their job is relatively similar to ours. High stress, high call volume. They deal with a lot of EMS medical issues too, with blood and different things like that that they're going on different runs with. They're dealing with a lot of different patients and everything like that. And so they're dealing with the same thing, but they are not, for the most part, are not exposed to the products and environment of what we're getting, which this data helps prove that our job is a little bit different, and it's because we're exposed to the smoke and some of those fire products that this way that it is. Now, back in, well, like this is done in San Francisco, and they did a survey of 700 active and retired members, and they found that 270 had active cancer, that they were actively fighting it, not in remission, but actively fighting it. That is a crazy high number. And you can read that in 2007 to 2014, they lost 231. That is just crazy. There was a documentary, done on HBO about the chemicals that are added to furniture, like flame retardant and stuff like that, and they talk about that and how bad they are when those products actually burn. And that was done, I want to say, 70s, early 80s is when they started adding some of those chemicals in there. Now, I'm going to pick on Chief Squires for a minute. So when, I'm sorry, he was last of the party, so I got to do it. And so, but when like you started in the fire service, fires were much different than what they are now. Would you agree with that? Okay. Chief, same for you, same for LT here. And they were much different because they still burn just as hot as they do now. They still burn just as hot. Difference is now they get hot, that same temperature a lot faster, and the energy is released a lot different. But they were made different, and that's because we didn't have a lot of products like this in those early stage fires. It was a lot of wood, paper products for the majority of things. So it wasn't uncommon for people to belly in back then, right? You put your hood up to your nose, put your nose on the floor, you come out with little scratch marks on your nose because your nose was on the floor like a little puppy dog, and you would belly into fires and they would do what they need to do. All right, so this study, this NIOSH study, these are like people that are really, really smart, like little propeller heads on top of their head, a lot smarter than me. But they did one, and they found increased causes for malignant mesothelioma. I can't say the words this morning. All right, so who's got less than 5 years on? Anybody? Okay, so let's, everybody's going. All right, do what you gotta do. No, but so what is this from? What causes that? Do you know? Is it Andy? Is that your name?
Eris.
Eris?
Yeah.
You are the first person I've ever met with that name. That's a pretty cool name. All right, so what is that basically? Where does that show up? Do you know? What organ in your body does that show up? There's been commercials on it all over the place. If you've had, look at your lungs. That's awesome. So lungs, what causes that? I'll pick on this young lady back here.
What causes
Mesothelioma.
asbestos?
Exactly right. Boom goes the dynamite. All right. So back in the earlier times, like when I came on in the early '90s, when we would do training birds and things like that, we didn't have the what's the word I want to use, the codes and the standards as much as far as cleaning out houses is what we were going to do. We never removed, or we were supposed to, but it might have been frowned upon. But like they didn't go and like take off shingles of the roof or some of the sidings and things like that. And we would take couches and furnitures and pallets and straw and whatever we could find, because we want to get this fire big. And we used a beautiful thing called diesel fuel, is how we made the fires get going, with fusees and things like that. And then after we lit it, this was my first fire behavior class, or close to, in the early stages of my career. We lit it, it would get up on the ceiling and start dancing. Stop me when I'm lying, old people. And then you waited to see who was the last one to put their mask on. It was almost like a challenge to see who would be the last one to put their mask on. And because you wanted to save your air. at that time also, when I was even younger, and first started coming around the fire service before I would go in to start taking runs and everything, but I would see that the air packs, they came in big green cases. They were the MSA steel bottles with the hoods, or not hoods, but hoses and stuff that were on them, and they never came off the tailboard of the truck. And why do you guys think that is? Most of the time, those older guys would be like, you don't need that stuff, kid, let's go. Why did they say, just leave it there? Why didn't people want to grab it as much?
I see it being weak.
Yeah, they'd be seen as being weak and things like that. So that culture has started to change a little bit over time, and we continue to still have to change that a little bit. So we'll move on a little bit more. So with this one, as part of this, you can see that some of these, look at this. These numbers, esophagus is up, mesothelioma is up, so it shows up in our lungs. And what's kind of consistent with these right here is what we were just talking about, right? The use of, or lack thereof, of the SCBAs, or what you would see happen is after, before we start doing air monitoring stuff, is after a fire was put out, right, good, we just killed it, we're good. Think we can take these masks off yet? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know, so what do you think we did? Kind of pipe, you know, just crack them on the side a little bit. Oh yeah, we good, or no, you know, and that's what, you know, that's just the way the world was. It was that way for a long time until there were some really smart people that I really look up to with the Cyanide Coalition, these people in Europe that are studying these things, the NIOSH people, and that have actually had the courage to go up there and go, what, you guys got to monitor for some of this stuff and know that this stuff is here for you. And for those are just people I really look up to. All right, so cancer mortality rates versus general population versus firefighters, we're definitely, if we get this mesothelioma, it is very bad. We're exposed to the asbestos a lot, and that's what these numbers are showing you. All right, so the rectal cancers are higher, buccal, and this means our death rates versus the general population. So this number scares me. I ain't gonna lie, that scares me, okay? So what we found is there's a causal association between us doing our job and us getting sick. Okay, so it is because that we're exposed to some of these bad big words here: polycyclic, aromatic hydrocarbons, asbestos, things like benzenes, formaldehydes, acrylenes, all the methyl ethyl death soup. And these PAHs, that's what I call them because I can't spell those words. Those PAHs, those are in a lot of those food on the stoves that we see when the food starts off gassing crazy stuff, or the pots and the pans do. The undersides of, like, you know, on a stove you'll see like a lot of times they have like microwaves on them, and they have that insulation and that foam stuff, you know, that's underneath where the filters are, and as that starts to degrade and it puts off gases there, and some of those stuff is there for you. Cyanide's a big thing. Has anybody talked to you all about cyanide and carbon monoxide before? How they work together to kill you? Yes, no, different? Okay. Some of that comes into play here. And what I'm really wondering is that, like, how many of people that passed away after a shift after they had a couple of fires because they had heart attacks, stroke, or whatever, is because that they were in those fires, and that cyanide and the carbon monoxide actually induced their cardiovascular event, because where it made where the cells couldn't use the oxygen, and it made it to where the blood could not use the oxygen that was there. And I wonder if that caused their event that was there. Okay. So current cancer issues, this is from Miami-Dade, and these numbers come from down there. Their department has been really nailed, along with Jacksonville. Down in Florida, a guy that by the name of Kurt Wilson came up to my department many years ago and helped fuel the fire of me into this, because his department was getting pummeled with cancer too. So down there, they were 3 times more likely to get firefighters were 3 times more likely to get cancer than the general population. And anybody know what another name for neoplasms are? I didn't hear it. No? Growths, tumors. You know, when they say, oh my gosh, you got a growth right here or something like that. And that's just all that is a fancy word for saying that. And then you can have other top concerns that these guys were having, which was a head, neck, melanomas, prostate, skin cancers, testes, thyroid. There's all sorts of issues that they were having there. Okay. So of their down there, 2011 alone, they had 756 retired members. 371 were diagnosed with cancer, which is crazy. And so almost nearly half of them were affected by this terrible stuff that's going on. So now that we got the 5 trumpets in the room, Chief, I'm going to pick on you just for a minute, sort of. But this is where, as we start doing budgets and things like that, you can start to see a cost of what 1 year of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is $750,000 for these guys and gals. $750,000. 2 years was almost $1 million. Colon, 321,000-ish. Second year was 460,000 almost. And it's just crazy as to what they're going through. And so these are some of the things that, as overtime comes in, that we can ask for, like from our legislative bodies and things like that, different things to help us out. For me, I can only stay on my department insurance until I'm 65. And then after that, then I have to go to Medicare, Social Security, buy my own insurance, things like that. So that's what scares me. And for the younger folks in here, this is where I give the talk that, like, the old bull used to tell me, you need to start saving money. No, they really meant it. So put stuff back for your insurance and things like that. Whatever you can put back, please do. Because that's what scares me, is medical costs, is when I retire. Okay? All right. So causes of death in Miami-Dade. All right. So just in the 10-year span between 2004 and 2014, they had 129 deaths. 42% were from cancer, 10% were cardiac, and you can see the rest. Another number that's really high that surprises me, well, it doesn't, but I'm glad that it's starting to be reported a little bit, because I really think we have to take care of each other with this, is the PTSD stuff. And so typically, at least for me, I get off on a little tangent on this, but typically for me, people seem to think of it as more of a military or a police officer thing, but I really believe that this hits with paramedics, it hits with us, just the repeated exposure of things, so we have to take care of each other. That's the basic gist. I've had 2 friends commit suicide, one of them that I went to the academy with. I don't know if he had bad runs or whatever it is, but you all can think about different things throughout your career that haunt you. But if you have those, just talk to your buddies and use your EAP and support networks and stuff. But I'm glad that they're starting to report it so that we can help get some benefits for people to do this. Another friend of mine was recently pensioned off the job up home, which had to go before the state and everything like that because of PTSD of some crazy runs that they had had. And so I think it's good that they recognize that at the legislative level and moving along. All right, so deaths before retirement, and these are people that were actively on the job in the years of 1952 and 2014. So they were still on the job. They still had that 90 total deaths, which includes your 24 line of duties, which could have been a multitude of things. But they had cancer was still their big one. Cardiac was up there as well. And I can't stress this enough too, that I didn't talk about this in the last 2 days, but I will today while we're on with cardiac. If you feel bad while you're working out and doing your things at work, I don't care how little it is, please go. A guy that's another lieutenant at work was working a trade and was working out. He goes, man, I just don't feel good. He starts to go upstairs, sits down, and goes, man, I really don't feel good. You know, and then it's like, I don't know. And medic caught a run out of the station. Engine caught a run out of the station. Both of our staffed ALS vehicles caught a run. Or I'm sorry, the EDO, which is our EMS supervisor. We still had the engine there. He comes down as the medic's leaving on a run. And he tells one of the other guys that's working in trade as well, he goes, man, I feel good. Just hook me up to the monitor, just see what's going on. Long and short story is he had the Widowmaker and 100% blockage of his LED and zero warning signs other than kaboom. And so if you start to see that you feel bad, take care of each other. He was on the cat table in 12 minutes because the hospital is real close to that station. And so they were able to open him back up and everything's okay, he's back on the job. But if he hadn't been working that day, I guarantee we would have probably been putting him in the ground. Even the cardiologist said, you shouldn't be living. And so if you start to feel bad, just tell your buddies and stuff like that. All right. So the average age of death for these folks was 45. You can see these numbers as well, which is very young. And here is that within the first 10 years of retirement, our average age is 64. That scares me. I want to live to at least be 80. That's kind of a goal, as long as I can still function and play golf and ride my motorcycle and everything like that. So that scares me. And then the thing that was always said is our average life expectancy after we retire is around 7 years-ish, give or take, if you work as a career firefighter. And so in other words, don't retire. But you got to take into account that's the whole nation that's there. But you look, people retire around 57, 56, mid-50s, and then this is that kind of correlates to that average age right there. So, and look what's doing most of the damage, is all those delayed effects from that stuff that we've been exposed to. Way back in the day, they didn't have beautiful things in the firehouse called Plimo vents. And there was a correlation that the more diesel exhaust, the busier trucks you were. You guys ever notice you go to busy stations, it smells like diesel fuel all the time? Same type of thing. Like mechanics have been getting sick too because they use all the brake clean and stuff like that. We used to wash our hands when I would work in a service shop. That's what we cleaned our hands in, was gasoline and brake clean. You're laughing because you did that, didn't you? Yeah, so there you go. So all cancer deaths though down at Miami-Dade between 52 and 2014, you can see the causes here in some of these numbers. Lung cancer is still a big one, and they don't know for 19% of some of them, but brain cancer, colorectal, these are all their cancer deaths. Ooh, excuse me. And it's crazy. All right, so in Boston, that's one of the oldest departments in the country. You guys would agree with that, right? And so 67%, one of the highest ones, 67% have been pounded right there. That is just absolutely crazy for their cause of death. So look at this. That is a crazy number right there. If you look at the bar graphs, if you don't even know the numbers but you see the pictures, because I'm all about pictures, and that's what hits home with me, is lung cancer is one of their biggest ones. Now, in what did the note say? 1988 is when they banned smoking for those firefighters in that department. So, but there's all the other issues that they catch a lot of fire. You'll see a video. The very last thing I'm going to show you is a video made from Boston, and I